Welcome to Bets on the Future, where we highlight the various career paths in the electrifying metals world. From the vehicle you ride in to the bridge holding it up, metals are everywhere. Why not in your career too? I'm Jennifer Betts, a metals industry veteran with almost 20 years experience, here to highlight these incredible career paths as told by the women who are living them. Today, we have a true metals industry leader joining us. Please give a warm welcome to Nidhi Turakhia, partner at Allied Alloys in Houston, Texas. Nidhi brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the metals recycling table. With a background in metals recycling, she has achieved remarkable success in the stainless and alloy worlds. Get ready for an incredible conversation about jumping into the metals industry and finding your passion within the recycling community. If you cannot tell by our voices, this is day 4 of the ISRI 2023 convention here in Nashville. I love Nidhi's guitar in the background, so there hasn't been a lot of sleep happening here. It's been all day, every day, 4 days straight. Nidhi's been here longer than I have, so thank you so much for hopping on here and taking a few minutes before we all go back out for another reception this evening.
No, you're very welcome. Like I said, I'm happy to be here.
I always find it interesting how people get into the industry. Recycling is everywhere. We all know the green logo. We see the blue bin, but we don't necessarily see from the metals perspective it as a career. So how did this even come across your radar?
Oh, so I'm second generation. So I was pretty much raised in this industry. And growing up in it, during high school, I would intern at my father's scrapyard and work the summers there just to make a little bit of money. And I started off learning export-import documentation. And obviously a little bit of the basic admin stuff. But at that time, I really wasn't interested in joining the industry full time. My plan was after college to sit for the LSATs and hopefully apply to law school. I mean, at the time I was reading a lot of John Grisham books, so I thought it'd be, a very exciting criminal lawyer career. Just to find out that it's not. It's a lot of paperwork and pushing documentation, and that just was not for me. So oddly enough, the Friday I graduated college from UT Austin, my dad bribed me and said, come work for me, move back to Houston, come work for me that following Monday. And if you don't like it, I'll pay for your law school. Just give me 6 months, and give it a try. So did that, never looked back, didn't go to law school, actually changed that path completely and ended up getting my MBA instead. So that was my introduction to the industry.
That's incredible. And not to put you on the spot, but that 6 months turned into how many years at this point?
Oh, it's been 2003. So it's been 20 years now. Officially, it'll be 20 years this December.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is a really impressive backstory. And in the metals world, it's everywhere, right? It's part of our everyday life. And you don't really think about the careers that come out of recycling to help support the manufacturing on the metal side of things. So it's really fascinating. Although I do have to say there is probably still some paperwork that
Definitely.
is in your current role that is and probably a few lawyers as well.
Definitely both. Don't know if I like either one.
So for those that are not familiar with Allied Alloys or really about the recycling industry at all as in terms of the metal space, what would you tell them about Allied Alloys and how it fits into the whole supply chain?
Well, no, great question. So we are a stainless steel and nickel alloy processing company. And what that means is we process the metal, whether it's solids or turnings, in every single type of way, except for shredding. And we do not have a melting furnace. So we bale, we shear cut, we crush, and we're also vacuum quality certified. It just means that our items, once we're done processing them, they could go into industries like the aerospace industries, get recycled into, new airplane engines, because we make a really good finished product in essence. Even though it's coming from recycled metals, they still consider that good enough to put back in, whether it's, like I said, airplane engines or appliance industry, oil and gas, obviously being in Houston. We buy a lot from the oil and gas sector. And so our footprint is huge. I mean, everything you see, everything you touch, it's somehow either recycled from stainless steel or there's some sort of nickel, chrome, moly content in it. And so it's also a very niche market within our industry. There's not many people that actually specialize in just stainless and nickel. So I'm fortunate to be here and I love it.
It's really incredible what you do at your operation. For those that are not familiar with it, the way that I tend to explain it is essentially we make the cake ingredients. And depending on what type of cake you want to make, you're going to need different ingredients. So an angel food cake is going to be different than German chocolate, which is going to be different than red velvet. And yours is probably, made out of gold flakes. It's simply the more expensive, higher value material because there are some very strict standards and specs that go into the aerospace industry, and you cannot afford to have a quality issue because obviously that is a huge safety concern. I really trust the engineers and such that are creating those airplanes. Yep. We both use those airplanes to get here to Nashville. And so it's really incredible seeing what you're doing at your company and what you're a part of.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. And actually, you kind of touched on something that I use in my operations probably on like a weekly basis, because a lot of people ask me, like, what is it to create a 304 or a 316, blend, a stainless blend, whether it's a solids blend or a turnings blend. And I always tell them it's like baking a cake. Like I have to have the exact amount of sugar, which is nickel, the exact amount of chrome, which is flour, and the exact amount of moly if it's 316. So you hit on something that I use all the time.
So what are some of the high moments for you in this industry? Is there something that you always look forward to, what you're proud of?
Oh, within the industry, I mean, I always look forward to these conferences. I always look forward to ISRI. It's just once a year we get together and see thousands of people that I have not seen maybe in 12 months. And the sessions that they put on, the safety trainings that they do. I mean, the networking opportunities are just huge. And this year has been a big year because Nashville has been a record breaker. Apparently, we've had more attendees than we ever have in the past. So it's a big, this year has been really special for me. And I think it's been the highlight so far.
So I'm really glad that you brought up ISRI because you are very active in it. And obviously we're here at the ISRI conference in Nashville, Tennessee in April 2023. How did you get involved in it? What are your roles there? What made you get active and involved?
Oh, so I started off at the local level, for me, which is Gulf Coast region. So I started off just kind of like looking around the room and being like, there's not a lot of people that look like me in this room. And if I'm going to speak up about it, then I might as well try and do something about it to change it, to help. So I started raising my hand to just be like, hey, can we get more exposure for this industry? And they're like, where do you think we start? And I was like, let's create a social media PR chair within our chapter, and I'll help like build out websites and email blasts. And back then we didn't do many videos, but I'll just help kind of build that out so we could use the exposure and be able to kind of market and sell our industry. So that turned into presidential appointee. So ISRI, okay, I have to say this, ISRI is one of those associations where when you raise your hand, oof, you better be ready because they're gonna rope you in. And this is not like a 1 or 2 year deal. Like I've been working through my ways through all the officer positions for now 12 years. So wow. I actually just timed out what would it be now 36 hours ago as the president of Gulf Coast region. So I'm officially done with that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. To 12 years. That's all.
So, but what's next? We had dinner last night and I wanted to follow up. You've done this for 12 years, right? You're very active in it. But what does that mean for you now? Are you still going to be involved? Is there a different role, like going national level? What's happening?
No, absolutely. So the same day I rolled off my term as presidency, as the president, I actually was elected as a directors at large. So I just signed up for another 2 years. Yay me. But it was essentially for me, it was able to stay involved. And I figured if I'm going to stay involved, I might as well keep a vote on the board.
Absolutely.
So I still do actively now have a vote on the national level. From here, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know. I'm on the fence. Like, do I want to throw my my name in the ring for, secretary treasurer, which by the way, officially I did a few weeks ago, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna be nominated. So let's see what happens.
Hey,
And
you have to put it out there.
yeah, but that's another 8 years. So you have to work through those too.
I am learning so much about this week in terms of just
Commitment.
the commitment, and it's really impressive. And it's showing this week especially. And maybe it's just because Nashville is really alive.
Yeah. Even on a Tuesday at noon.
Yeah.
It shows that ISRI and the folks that are involved in ISRI and all the volunteers like yourself are really passionate about this industry and really brought it this year. Well, thank you. Thank you. I agree. I think another thing I love, the people. I mean, this organization has some amazing people that you just end up being friends, like you and I developed a friendship and, I love that. And now it's like, let's go have dinner as long as, we get to sit down and talk and hang out. I'm totally okay with that. So it's been really exciting for me coming from the recycled materials side of the business. And throughout my career, I've more or less completed the full supply chain. Watching all of the women in the industry that I have come across grow over the years, and then also see them helping other individuals either through mentorship or helping them connect with a different company for business or for employment. It's really shows. And our Women in Recycling reception last night was really well attended, probably the largest that I've personally seen. No, I think you're right. And it's great to see those individuals of all ages showing up. Absolutely. And I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it's the networking opportunities are just endless. Absolutely. For somebody that is interested in the metals world and wants to get into that space, and specifically more on the sustainability and recycling side of things, what would you recommend them to do to get involved or to really get into this industry? There's some things that we're working on through the Education and Training Committee. And workforce development is, if you don't know about this industry, which many people don't actually, if you don't know about this industry, how are you going to find out? Right? Like, you're just not going to randomly come to a conference. No. So, although it is pretty fun. It is. So I think we're trying to work on how to make sure our local high schools and colleges in whatever city you're in, and trade schools, to make sure that you understand what it is that we do and what our industry is about. So how do we get the word out, right? And they're doing it through Jason's Learning. Now, I just found out that ISRI has partnered with historical Black colleges and universities, and I personally have sponsored a high school in Houston for their STEM research and development program, to make sure that goes further. It's just, you have to start within your local community. And aside from that, I don't know how else. Well, this is one of my dreams. I'm hoping that every educational center has some sort of course on recycling, and whether they want to call it sustainability, that's fine. But have some sort of course on it. And I think we're slowly starting to see that now. It really is surprising to me, but also not surprising when I run into individuals that are outside this industry, like many of my family and friends are not in this industry, that the public is so unaware of how much recycling actually does happen. And I'm not necessarily talking about the blue bin. I'm talking about how 70% of the steel mills in the United States use recycled materials. So we make 70% of our steel from recycled materials. That's not coming from, some of it is coming from your appliance that you recycle, but a lot of it is in industry. It's industrial recycling, and that it's a career choice, and that the United States is actually doing a really great job about recycling what it has. And we're a scrap rich nation. We are a recycled materials rich nation that we export more than we consume. And so we are helping other countries with their recycling programs as well.
And you hit on something very spot on. Local communities with metals, with recycling, because metals are everywhere. If you get any experience in this industry, you can go and work anywhere in the world because there is metals, there are recycling facilities all around the world. And so it's a really great opportunity for you from a career choice long term.
I agree. I mean, just to expand on that a little bit further, I mean, even within the recycling companies, like the amount of different positions that you could work through. I mean, you could learn everything and anything from IT to HR to accounting, and what other industry do you get that sort of breadth of experience? And go ahead.
It's something that I was talking about with someone from the reception last night about how the next generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're very passionate about the planet, about the environment, about the climate and recycling. And a lot do not know that this is the career choice. So maybe they go to school for finance. Maybe they become a lawyer, right? They're able to take those skills and match it up with their personal passions for a career. Not many people get to do that. That's incredible. What are you looking forward to in the next 5-10 years? What do you see coming down the pipeline for our industry, for recycling, for metals?
So I think we're already seeing a number of issues when it comes to the EJ and ESG space. So I think that unfortunately that's not positive news. It's definitely something that we all need to be looking out for and just be aware. Again, that's on your local level, your state level, just that's something that we're always trying to keep our finger on the pulse about. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is, I mean, I really think that our future in the recycling industry is really bright. I mean, we're working on a brands council to pull in Nestle and M&M and Coca-Cola. I mean, those are big names, right? And so if we could just change the perception, which I think we're doing, now, is it fast enough? Maybe not.
Yes, I would like to see it a little quicker.
Yeah.
You're talking about these major brands that use metal.
Right.
Or
plastic
or plastic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are recycled materials already being used by those brands. And yet the everyday consumer is not aware of that, right? I even look at a Hershey Kiss and I look at the aluminum foil that it uses. The average, what's the ISRI fact of how long a aluminum can goes from the recycling bin through the system all the way back out, remelted into a new can? Something like 60 days, right?
Right.
Right?
I think you're right.
So think about that. The can that you're drinking out of right now, because if you're enjoying a lovely beverage while you listen or watch this podcast, that was somebody else's can 60 days ago. And it's going to be somebody else's can 6 years from now. Right? So a little plug, stop putting it in the trash can, please, because we still need more cans.
We do.
We have more microbreweries and sparkling waters coming out that we need those aluminum cans for.
No, you're right. So that's a great plug. Please recycle.
Yes. I'm sure we'll be using a few of those later this evening.
Exactly.
Is there anything that has been challenging for you within the metals and recycling world?
I hate sounding like a broken record and having to continuously repeat myself, but goes back to the perception again. I think a huge challenge and something that actually my company and I dealt with personally the last 3 years is the perception that my local police department and the DA office had about our industry. And I felt like we were specifically being targeted. It was like COVID hit. Oh, they kept their doors open. Oh, wait, their money's still flowing. Let's target them, because the city at that time, obviously, all the cities were hurting, right? All the governments were hurting. So how do you make up for that? let's go after the people that actually are deemed critical
Mhm.
and see if we could, issue some citations, some tickets, maybe even drag them into a lawsuit.
Wow.
So that's something that I saw and in Houston alone, it happened to 3 different companies in the last 3 years. And I
Wow.
was like, that's a struggle and that's a challenge for me that hit home. But I am really happy to announce that we came out of it completely on the other side. Actually to the point where now they deemed us like the poster child and asked us to be a source for other companies that may be, going through some stormwater issues, the Air Quality Clean Act, just things of that nature that unfortunately is part of our day-to-day business.
Absolutely. You are a manufacturer.
Yes.
At the core of it, you are a manufacturer, but you also take material and you recycle it.
Yes.
You are part of the sustainability plan for large manufacturers.
Yep.
They want to know X percentage of their material that they're using to build products is from recycled sources.
Yep.
And if it becomes more challenging to operate those businesses, you're going to struggle to get that circular economy going in those areas.
No, I mean, I think it was the podcast you did with John Sacco where it's like there's not going to be a world without recycling. There's not going to be a world or a planet without us.
No, not at all. It's very energy intensive, and it's not a great carbon footprint to mine bauxite, which is the building blocks for aluminum, right? But as we go down the path of continuing to lightweight vehicles and use more aluminum cans and essentially just have a higher demand for it, we really need to focus on recycling so that we don't outweigh the benefits of using those products with the mining footprint that comes from bauxite.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't want to deplete that resource at all. So no, you're absolutely right.
Is there anything that, before we wrap up and walk down the street, is there anything else that you would want to put out there in terms of metals, in terms of recycling, anything that you're working on that you want people to know about or encourage them to get involved with?
So I would, if I had to leave with one just tidbit or a piece of advice, to the audience that's watching this is just please understand how important it is that you keep your yard, your facility clean. Like, please, like, be good about the regulations and be compliant. I mean, that is a big deal because there are a few bad apples in our industry, and because of them, the rest of us get painted with the same brush, and I think we need to change that. So my advice would be just do what you have to do to keep your doors open and do it legally.
Absolutely. There definitely is an incorrect perception about the recycling industry that because of those few bad apples, it's across the board. And from my experience, I've been to hundreds of scrap yards at this point, and I've been to hundreds of recycled material facilities throughout my career, and some of them are cleaner than some of the stores that we shop in. It's really impressive. And they want to follow and abide by the regulations and guidelines because they are a professional business.
Clean, organized, it's healthier for you and healthier for your company.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Nidhi, I really want to thank you for squeezing me in during this very busy week, and I really appreciate it. And it's always a pleasure chatting with you. And I love your story, what you're doing with ISRI, what you're working on as a woman-owned business. It's really encouraging and motivating for the rest of us in this industry.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. I truly appreciate it. And I know you know how much our friendship means to me. So thank you for having me here. Thank you for squeezing me in and because we all have a busy schedule this week.
Yes.
So thank you. It's been fun.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's go use a couple of aluminum cans.
Let's do that. I'm ready.